I'm going to just make a quick introduction. So first of all, good afternoon. I want to say on behalf of the Jewish community and myself personally, how appalled and saddened we are by the recent attacks on Muslims in Canada. There should be absolutely no place in Canada for hatred based on religion, race, skin color, gender, or any other type of racism. We stand with you to bring to justice anyone whose actions in any way threatens any person based on racial hatred. I just needed to get that out of the way for myself and for all of you. It's really important to us as it is to you. We feel terrible of what happened in London, Ontario, and other places.
Thank you.
I'm here today as the chair of the Security Committee of the Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver to tell you about how we organized and to see if our experience in the Jewish community can help you. In 2015, because of what we saw as an increase in anti-Semitism in Canada, we formed a committee of people who had either an interest or some background in security. Except me, I don't have any of either, but they sort of forced me. We decided that we needed to focus on two things. First, Jewish venues like synagogues, community centers, and organizational offices. And secondly, on major community events. We got some training from the Vancouver Police Department and from some people in our community who have some knowledge on how to be extra eyes and ears at events and at prayer services. But we were completely out of our depth when it came to physical security risk assessment at synagogues and other venues. We decided to get professional risk assessment of one of our buildings, and that assessment, when it was completed, told us how woefully unsecure that building was. In the wake of that experience, we implemented many of the recommendations made by the risk assessment of that building, but we realized that we need to go far beyond that building. We needed someone who could assess all the Jewish venues and get recommendations on all those venues tailor-made for each one. They're all different. We needed someone who could train the volunteers on an ongoing basis, or at least supervise their training. We needed someone who could liaise and work with the police departments so that the police could provide the training and workshops that we felt we needed, and to alert police about our major events, and to focus attention on known violent racists in our province, because there are some. In 2017, we hired Daniel as our community's director of security. You'll hear from him in a moment. His hiring has made a world of difference for our community. He is the focal point for any security-related issue in our community. He knows all the players who are in charge of security at the various organizations, and he even helps organizations access Security Infrastructure Program, or SIP, grants from the federal government. There is a financial cost to having a director of security, but I want to float an idea that our two communities may be able to work on together. As was probably reported by the Prime Minister in the National Summit on Islamophobia that was held last week, the SIP grants have been raised to $6 million, and the government says it wants to learn from affected communities, which specifically includes Muslims and Jews, how the SIP grants could be better used by our communities. At the moment, the SIP grants are available for hardware, for software, for physical upgrades, but mostly not for services, even though specific building risk assessments are eligible. I think that based on our experience, that the cost of a director of security for the Lower Mainland or for the BC Muslim community would be an excellent investment in security for your community and for our country. Whether the position be full-time or part-time, if you think this is a good idea, we could jointly make a submission to the federal government that services such as this position, and in some cases paid security guards, should be eligible for SIP funding. I've also agreed with Daniel and we've spoken about it before, who has now 4 years of experience with our community, that he could help any new director of security that you might hire to get a jump start on that person's position by sharing Daniel's experience with that person. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Daniel for the rest of our 15 minutes to talk to you about specifics and best practices.
Thank you very much, Bernard. And thank you to everybody. I'm just going to share here. All right. Can we see that? Perfect.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to give you this talk. I understand that I only have about 10 minutes, so it's going to be a little bit high level, but as I explained, I'm happy to come back at another time and talk specifics with you and help you in program development. So as Bernard said, that I've been in this role for almost 4 years now. And prior to that, I come to you via the South African and British militaries, as well as about a decade of international humanitarian and NGO relief programs around North Africa and the Middle East. Well versed in providing support and security support to Muslim communities that are in need of it. So in this role that I have a few main functions that I undertake, and they are as follows. They're on the screen there for you to see. So I coordinate the safety and security training of all the organizations across the Lower Mainland for the Jewish community. I do that in conjunction with the VPD. Sometimes they're assisting with the training, and some of those people that have helped train are going to be speaking tonight. I also do it on my own as needs be, depending on what the training is and how many people and what we can arrange. One of the things that's very important with the training is to ensure that you have a standardization so that you can develop common practices and procedures to ensure that your community members are able to come together and work together as needed. There's no point training different styles and methods at different organizations or mosques or community centers. It has to become a one coordinated training package. With regards to the risk assessments and the upgrades, I take on the role of carrying out those risk assessments. Typically, one of these security companies could charge you anywhere from 10 to 15,000 per risk assessment. It's a comprehensive document and gives you a lot of recommendations for improvement, assesses your vulnerabilities. And what we can do with that is to really to save those costs and actually put them into the program and the upgrades. So as Bernard said, again, with the SIPGRANT applications, I assist with those. I help work out what needs to be done and where, and I help with the application process and writing the risk assessments and the planning that goes into the SIPGRANT application. One of the things that I found that was lacking at a lot of organizations was the actual security policies and procedures. So one of the things that a security director should be doing for you is also to either draft them or review the existing ones and tweak them and edit them as needed. They need to ensure that those policies and procedures are kept up to date so that they can reflect the current security threats and the changing needs of your community and those specific organizations. Things change, things evolve. Certain tactics or things that happen, and you need to roll with it. You can't become stagnant with these security policies. With regards to large-scale event planning, during the high holiday period, but also there's other events throughout the year where you have to coordinate with law enforcement, with venue security. If we're having it at UBC, we have RCMP and campus security. If we're having it downtown, it's VPD and the outsourced security. And just making sure that whoever you have plays the main role, the oversight of ensuring that the planning and the coordinating and everything is coming together. You have that one point of contact so that nothing's being overlooked and nothing is being missed. And in developing the good working relationships with local law enforcement agencies, wherever you are in the mainland, whatever police department you are falling under, most of the Jewish organizations that I assist are within the VPD's area. And that's why I have a really good working relationship with a lot of people that are, again, going to be talking to you tonight. And then the other factor that I would be taking on is the being on call for emergencies and being that incident command when something is happening. Being that person that answers the phone, that is able to then get extra security guards to get to the site to take charge of a situation as needed from the civilian side of things, while the police are able to do their side of life, and then be that liaison and be able to turn police speak into civilian speak as well, and be able to communicate that to the community members and the leaders of those organizations that are experiencing whatever the trouble is that they're going through. The coordinated training that we typically put on covers these topics. And again, I talked about the standardization and developing a common curriculum. And so in conjunction with law enforcement or independently, I carry out these trainings across the community. I don't just hold them at the community center. I go out to different schools, synagogues, community centers all over the Lower Mainland, and I take it to the people in order to get the most amount of buy-in and the most attendance. Because what you don't want is people after work trying to travel in an hour through traffic to try and get to another hour-and-a-half lesson. That's not fair, right? So we go out and we take it to them and several times during the day and the night, depending on what we can fit in and make it work for everybody. So these topics that we cover, we try and get to as wide an audience as possible. Initially, we looked at just doing the frontline staff, the greeters at the places of worship, because they're the ones that are interacting with the public the most on a day-to-day basis. But then we opened it up and we cover the entire community. We opened it up to everyone, parents at schools, attendees at the synagogues. And that gives you, as Bernard said, the term that he used, the eyes and the ears. They're not security guards, but if everyone is paying attention, if everyone is being vigilant, that helps your security posture, that helps your security guards, because you understand the ebb and the flow of life in your communities. You understand the dress, the greetings, what should be done on certain religious days or certain holy days, etc. And you can spot the thing that is not meant to be there. The term we use in the military is the absence of the normal, the presence of the abnormal. And living in that community, you understand what is not right. So, we ensure that the organization staff, as well as their security, they go through all this training. Then they also do drills and rehearsals and practices, which we do in kind of a layered approach. We talk it through first, then we walk it through, and then we actually run drills. And we cover things like, the fire escapes, the first aid locations, the lockdown procedures. And we do this in conjunction with the police. VPD, one of the officers who are going to speak a bit later on, James Hooper, he has helped us in many, many drills and practices throughout the community. And so it's a really good resource to be able to have. One of the things that I like to do is I like to have a hybrid model, not just trained community volunteers and not just security guards. As I said, the community volunteers have their own benefits to being there. And then the security guards are the licensed professionals that are able to get physical if need be, enact use of force, and do that side of life as they've had training in that. And it separates your staff that are able to alert them and then back off and let them handle their job. And then the upgrades themselves. Now, this is a complementary measure to the actual training. And as I've already said, so I'm just going to skip over this quickly, is that I help work with the organization. We develop a risk assessment. We find out where the vulnerabilities are and what their priorities are based around the need of the organization, the types of events or services that are happening. And then obviously the budget, because the government only pays 50% of the upgrades. And then I help them prioritize what needs to be done, help them find vendors, help them work through the quotes and figure out what is the best option to take on. And then I'm on hand usually to assist with the upgrades. I'm on site to make sure that cameras are going in the right place. Access control is being put in the right way, and people are being trained appropriately on the systems that are being installed, etc. So it's a full service type of role that we take on. And as I'm coming to the end of my time here, I just want to wrap up and give you a bit of a preparedness cycle overview. So I just want to highlight this. The continuous nature that a preparedness cycle must take in order to maintain an effective safety and security posture, so that you can't stagnate or be static in what you're doing. It's no good to just put in a couple cameras, put in a gate, and do one training session and then you're done. This is a continuous cycle. You're evaluating what the risks and threats are. You're seeing what your priorities are. You're bringing in the resources, the police, a security director, other trainers for first aid, stop the bleed, etc. And then you're working on the equipment. You're training people in the equipment or the policies and procedures. You're running those drills. You're checking the rehearsals that you've done and evaluating those results. And then you're adapting again. You're taking those results and you're making the program better the next time. You found a flaw that you hadn't noticed when you did the paperwork exercise. Now you've done it for real and you've identified a new vulnerability, and you work on that and you tweak it and you keep evaluating your results and you keep progressing, and a continuous cycle. It never ends. So that's my time. That's exactly 10 minutes. As we said, we'll do questions later. There is my contact information. So as I said, I am available to talk to you in depth about this further, and about the training packages that I put together, either just myself or in conjunction with the police. And I'm happy to help you work through developing your own security programs.